Austin, it's really good to see you. I have an important question. Should you pay off your mortgage before you retire? A lot of us want to go into retirement debt free, but it's not just a financial, but also an emotional decision. So before people pay off that debt, you want them to consider a few things. And first on your list is your mortgage rate.
Yes, Aaron, that's exactly right. We know this is kind of the most obvious consideration, right? If we have a low mortgage rate, perhaps sub 4%, then maybe it makes sense to divert those funds elsewhere. But for many folks, and myself included, right, this is not simply a financial decision. I think we would be remiss if we did not factor in the emotional side, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
For many folks, it's just simply, we call it the sleep factor, right? Going into retirement without a mortgage allows us to rest easier at night, knowing that as long as we pay those property taxes and homeowners insurance, then we're going to have a place to rest our head at night. So that is also a really big factor in this decision.
Right. And just a little bit of context, Austin, you mentioned, rates used to be really low. We just wanted to bring up a quick look at the 30-year fixed rates right now, which is still kind of eye-popping to me.
Yeah, for many of us, perhaps that have got a home in the last, 10 to 15 years, we haven't seen rates this high. So it's
Yeah.
certainly an eye popper for those of us that, again, have bought a house in the last
Right,
decade to
right.
decade and a half.
All right, the next consideration, we want to talk through the tax consequences of either paying off your mortgage or using money from your retirement accounts to pay down your mortgage.
Yeah, this is certainly a very important consideration. We here at Patriot Wealth spend a lot of time talking to clients about tax diversity.
Right.
So we
Hmm.
want to be sure that we're building up that taxable bucket tax deferred account and also our favorite account, tax free. But
Hmm.
with respect to paying down the mortgage, we want to be cognizant that we're not really pulling out of a tax deferred vehicle to do so because that can be costly depending on our other types of income. For example, if we have $100,000 left on our mortgage and we pull out of an IRA or a 401k to pay that off, well, that $100,000 has to be net. So we have to factor in that tax cost. That means it's really going to cost us maybe 125,000 or 130,000 depending on our other sources of income and our tax bracket. So that's certainly
Right.
a major consideration heading into retirement when you're facing this pay off or not to pay off decision.
Yeah, that's a really good point. All right, the third consideration here, as interest rates climb, that will make paying down certain debt more expensive. So, how do we prioritize which debt to pay first?
Yeah, the easiest way to think about this decision is which is the most interest rate sensitive debt.
Okay.
And this is going to be things like credit card debt and
Mhm.
maybe HELOCs or home equity lines of credit, because these are typically variable interest rates, right? So as interest rates increase dramatically, like they have over the last 12 to 18 months, we know that rate we were paying on our credit card is certainly higher. Likely the rate we're paying on that home equity line of credit is higher. So we don't really want to subject ourselves to those types of variable interest rates. Whereas for many folks, that mortgage payment is a fixed rate, right? So we
Right.
want to pay off that interest rate sensitive debt first and then perhaps focus our cash flow elsewhere.
Okay, so let's talk about the elsewhere then. Let's say that you have paid down that high interest debt. Then do you focus on your mortgage or do you suggest focusing on other savings instead?
So I think for many folks, the number one goal should be an emergency fund. If you
Okay.
are not a pre-retiree or retiree, then somewhere in the vicinity of that 3 to 6 months worth of living expenses should be in a stable, safe, liquid investment. That could be a savings account, money market, CD, something along those lines. If you are a retiree or pre-retiree heading into retirement in the near future, we here at Patriot Wealth really recommend closer to that 12-month worth of living expenses mark. And that's simply because we want to have cash on hand. Because speaking of that high interest rate sensitive debt, we simply do not want to be in the position where we find ourselves with an unexpected expense. We have to
Right.
turn to that credit card
Hmm.
because we didn't have the emergency fund build up. So if we have that emergency fund build up, we're maxing out our retirement account contributions, then perhaps we examine the possibility of getting that mortgage paid off.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Well, Austin, I appreciate being able to talk this through, especially because our lives are not spreadsheets. So there has to be kind of a conversation that goes into this decision. So if somebody wants to have that conversation with you, what's the best way to reach you?
Yes, you can give us a call at 919-322-4113 or shoot us an email at info@patriotwealthnc.com.
All right, Austin, thank you so much for your time today. It was really nice to get some more insight on this.
Thanks, Aaron.